I assess them in the stable using the AAA approach. So I'm asking, I'm assessing, and I'm adjusting, and then I ask again, assess, and adjust. So looking at him in the stable, looking at how he's standing, looking at how he's choosing to interact, looking at how he's holding himself, looking at him on the surface, so no saddle, no tack, no rider, walk, trot, and then a canter, both reins. Pretty standard stuff, right? Well, I consider this standard stuff to get a true assessment of a horse. And then looking at him with the saddle on, and you could definitely see a huge difference in his way of going on the left rein in general compared to the right. And then I noticed something, and this comes into the second A of assessing, and why I'm such a huge advocate for assessing your horse. We need to learn how to look at our horses objectively. Welcome to another chiropractic diary. Oh my God, we are definitely been through the houses today. So I've been stuck in traffic for over 45 minutes, currently running 1 hour behind schedule for clients. And obviously the most important thing is that whoever is in an accident, it doesn't sound great. I've been told it's a fatal incident, and hence why the delay of traffic. And yeah, I've had about 5 different police vans, ambulances, and then helicopter flying by, so it's pretty serious. Today I've been treating 3, again the power of 3, showing stallions, such lovely natured animals, like beautiful. And so 3 totally different case studies. The first one I was looked at said he's 7 years old, he's lightly backed, he's been covering in the past, and this is his first year under saddle in the showing world, which I love, by the way. Like most horses, you know, nowadays we hear they've been under saddle since they were like 3 years old, but this guy hasn't. So kudos, times are changing. Whoop. And she says the rider is saying that he's very different on the left canter to the right canter. The left canter's got no push, there's no power, he almost struggles to hold it. The physio has seen him and says it's just a weakness thing in terms of his age, which, by the way, I'm gonna question this. This is not bad-mouthing anyone. Can we really say as therapists that it's just a weakness on one rein? Can we say that? Surely the weakness is gonna be both reins. I don't know, you let me know, comment below. But like, surely we need to stop saying these generic terms. If we actually don't know what's going on with the horse, we need to say, do you know what? You can visibly see the left canter is totally different to the right canter. He actually struggles to maintain the canter lead compared to the right canter, which is like forward going, he looks strong. Like, how can there be that much of a difference and it purely be down to just a weakness thing? Like, surely the canter in general is going to be weak. Yeah, that's just my thoughts. So, as I always do, it was too obvious not to notice that his shoulder girdle, now remember, horses don't have a clavicle like humans. Their scapular attachment, so their forelimb attachment onto the axial skeleton, is all through soft tissue attachments. There's no bone joint. So a lot of it is the fascia, the muscles, the deep, strong connective muscles that are holding the forelimbs and the shoulder girdle onto the axial skeleton. The entire right side of his pectoral girdle, his right shoulder, so the pointer shoulder, the scapula, everything was bigger and, layman's term, bulged forward on the right side, and the left side was totally different. Interesting point, because then when you saw him move, obviously imagine having that visual asymmetry from a static perspective and then seeing it move. Like him on the right rein was totally falling in onto that right shoulder, flexing left, like reluctant to really want to open and bend to the right. And then I saw him canter and I was like, he's a different horse. He cannot balance himself on the left canter lead at all. So when I'm looking at horses, I'm splitting them up and assessing them in 3 parts. So it's probably the best way I feel to assess, because even though the body is as one and moves as one, you can section things off in terms of areas of the body that mainly work together, but you know they're all connected. So this area was the second area of his body, the shoulder girdle, was noticeably asymmetric. When I got to his pelvic girdle, the hind limb, the way his lumbar spine moved, the way his lumbar spine was held, there was very limited function of the lumbosacral junction, which is the second most mobile joint in the horse's body. If this is not functioning optimally, we have to ask why, but also not go straight into that's the main problem, because the body is connected, and we know we have the shoulder girdle asymmetry on the right. We know that in order for the horse to have what we all want, which is the strong back end where the hind limbs are coming through and driving us forward in sections of the horse's body, that is responsible for that. Pause. And if you said hind legs or pelvic girdle, again, subjectively, I don't think you're right, because in order for the hind limbs to come through, the shoulder girdle, the forend, needs to move away, needs to come up. And for that to happen, there needs to be a lot of strength, there needs to be a lot of balance, there needs to be a lot of togetherness in the shoulder girdle with those deep muscles. They need to be strong, they need to be pliable, balanced for the forelimbs to push off the ground, lift in the air, for the hind legs to come through. Does that make sense? Comment and let me know your thoughts. After treating him, I watched him move again, and I was seriously taken back at how much better the left counter was by the treatment that I gave him. So, what do we do now? We don't just say, right, see you again, bye, give me the money. It's now a case of me giving the rider, looking at the management, prescriptive, tailor-made exercises so that the adjustments we've done today are going to be allowed to heal, are going to be allowed to, I don't even want to say stay in their position, but I want to say heal optimally. An area of the body isn't going to adapt unless we change the environment, because the body is adapting to the environment. Make sense? So doing a treatment with so much attention to detail without considering environment, management, tack, the owner's skill set, the owner's time, would almost be, it's not a waste because the horse is getting a relief and they appear to be enjoying the treatment. But to really thrive, we have to look at the environment, which is why I looked at tack. I have given her, as part of her exercises, groundwork with no tack on. That's pretty standard, what I find, especially when I've had to apply a pressure to the body to promote a change in function. And the second thing is understanding that some days, and some with change, some days are going to look ugly. Some days you might get a little bit frustrated, and recognizing that this is all part of progress, it's all part of the journey. And just like you and I, if we were going to the gym, trying to say develop our glutes, some days you have a really awesome frequent session and you hit those PBs, and other days you just feel flat. Other days you might not get the depth, you might not feel the mind-muscle connection, but know that it's okay. And know that, especially if you're female with changing hormones, that that's going to be very much dependent on what's going on inside. Factors to consider. So, the second pony I did is a stallion, but he was a little Shetland stallion. Oh my goodness me, he was honestly like, I'm there to do a job, I've got my professional hat on, but when I see horses, and he had like the biggest mane and forelock, and he was just absolutely like a character. He had little pony ears, little man syndrome, but he was honestly absolutely beautiful. So he's a bit of a different case, because she said suddenly about a week ago, she said he didn't feel right in the trot. And you could see this straight away when you watched him in a straight line, when you watched him on the lunge, was not comfortable behind. He threw his back. Better and wanted to canter. Now when a horse chooses to canter, when all we're asking for is a trot, they're avoiding something. There is another indication they are in discomfort. They're in pain. When I was early on in my treating days, and I would see a horse on the lunge and they would shoot forward and back and far and canter off, and I would laugh, and I'd be like, and the owner would laugh because we'd be like, oh, he's enjoying himself. And then when I really got to understand more about biomechanics and anatomy and form equals function, and I recognized then, looking back at some of my videos, I'm like, oh my God, these horses were actually trying to release themselves. You know, they've just come from the stable on the lunge and they're just trying to release themselves. So having a buck and a fart, which we see as like play behavior or them being naughty for some people, like, again, horses are communicating, talking, telling us the whole time. It's just sometimes we've got our head up our asses and we're not concentrating, we're not present, we're not there to listen because we're in our own head. I feel like I brought the mood down a little bit, but I'm being honest, and I'm definitely not saying I'm perfect, because God, if I look back now at early days of treating, I'm like, God, I missed so much. And I'm sorry to all the horses. Like, you do your best, right? That was the best I was doing at the time with the knowledge and the skills I had. And there's one thing for sure, is that I'm never going to give up. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep improving, learning, challenging what I know, challenging what I suggest. And most importantly, throughout the whole thing, is putting my ego aside and listening to the horse. Because you know this, as a passionate horse lover advocate, that they never lie. And all these behaviors, luckily now there's the Sue Dyson ethogram, there's the wonderful work with Audrey Declue. You know, she's just like grabbing those bulls by the horns and showing people that all these conditions that we've labeled as, undiagnosable or odd or intermittent, and all these human words we give things and give our horses because we fundamentally cannot admit that we actually don't know what the answer is yet. So kudos to Audrey, kudos to Sue Dyson, and I know there's some other fantastic vets and therapists out there as well who have had enough of the generic way of treating. I know this for a fact, and I know that the more research we do, like, we're going to be busting all those myths and all those fixed mindsets of some of the equestrian world industry out there about, oh, just because we can't see it, and just because the x-ray's clear, doesn't mean the horse's behavior is then behavioral. It's just we haven't found it yet. We're not looking in the right area. And, you know, we don't ride the x-ray. We ride the horse, we ride the body. Our legs are wrapped around their body, our hands are connected to their mouth, like, yeah, which goes on to another topic of tack. But that we can do and talk about another day, as I know I'm not the only one who is a massive advocate for tack and understanding how much pain, lameness issues are caused by ill-fitting tack. That's it from me. I am on to my next appointment.